Good morning and welcome to Thoughts and Updates. This week I am still at the house, but I'm in the gazebo. It was Lily's 21st last week, and let's get a gazebo because of the restrictions. It was said, so we got one, and it's 3 metres by 6, and it's flipping huge. And it's due to go down this weekend because if you can hear, it's no longer lovely sunny part of the world. There's plenty of rain going round, so we've got it here. So I am here filming from the gazebo, which makes me feel also middle class. However, what a week it's been. In terms of writing this week, looking back last weekend, I was looking at the Cash for It fight. Wonderful to see Cash doing so well again, and a Scottish Asian boxer who is clearly somebody I think who's going to make a bit of a splash in the world stage eventually if he's taken through the ranks properly. Last night I had previewed Danny Dignam and Joe Ham's fights. Joe Ham, a guy who in 2014 made a huge splash in terms of the Commonwealth Games, but his professional career hasn't quite hit the same kind of heights, and last night was another defeat, a fairly big wide margin, but also watched the Demetrius Andrade fight against Liam Williams. Williams putting up a spirited defence, but not managing really to trouble Andrade too much. Also the circus overnight of Jake Paul getting a TKO first round win in his YouTube battle with a former MMA star, not the only MMA star who didn't really hit the heights. Frank Mir, the former UFC heavyweight champion, debuting in boxing against Steve Cunningham, who similarly won against him, although it was a decision over 12 rounds. My ringside report yesteryear fighters, Gerald McClellan, a very tragic kind of story. Guy who fought Nigel Benn and ended up being brain damaged, who is blind and mainly deaf, and has been 20 years plus since that fateful night, and not really been looked after by the boxing fraternity in America. So that has kept my writing juices going, as well as continuing to add to the essay I've been writing about the Olympics in 1980 and the '07 air crash in Poland and Warsaw that wiped out the US boxing team. Also, for across the pond, looking at the racism report in the United Kingdom and what a travesty it was, as well as from a TV thing that's been pie in the sky, a lovely little genteel kind of series that kind of ran out of steam towards the end, I think. So all of that has been interesting for Scottish Football Supporters Association. It's been about walking off the pitch when being racially abused, and Mr. Mellon up in Dundee United, and the speculation over going to Doncaster Rovers, one of the things that has led to this kind of scurrilous usual imaginative piece that I do for SFSA. So, reviews for Fringe Review. National Theatre Scotland Ghosts is up, and I'll be walking around Merchant City having a listen to that. And imaginative, I'm really looking forward to that, because it's an hour-long walk round the Merchant City listening to an audio piece which I think sounds exceptionally innovative and great. So, a few things for this week that I've thought about and I've kind of learnt from. The first one is to do with what I've been listening to, back to BBC iPlayer and BBC Sounds, and the walks that I take each day in order to help with my diabetes have been enlightened, enriched by listening to Lord Peter Wimsey and Five Red Herrings based in the west coast of Scotland. Lots of names in there: Newton Stewart, Coombery, Ayr, Barhill, that are wafting through the airwaves and into my ears, which has been nice. Also, Calvin Hobbes, the first 7 seasons of his Sherlock Holmes are up on the BBC Sounds app. Calvin Hobbes going back to the 40s and 50s, I think. Just a very nostalgic listen. Great. So aside from that, the things that have been really pushing this week have included Twitter and a couple of new jobs that I've picked up. One is to be on the Young Writers Award, the National Young Writers Award, to be in the expert panel, having pushed the idea of care experienced children and young people getting a bit of a say and a push for somebody who knows about them being on the panel, which was nice. And Way with Words, a transcription service where they were looking for Scots voices, thanks to Rachel Bradford, who gave me the tip to wink that they were looking for people. So hopefully those will kick off soon and I'll have something to contribute. Now, Twitter. My dear and lovely partner Lorna, many months ago, decided to come off Twitter because being on Twitter was a bit of a struggle for her. She would get involved in arguments with people who would be quite abusive, and it was fairly upsetting, and time came to go, you know, enough's enough. But she enjoyed Twitter because it's filled with the type of interesting politics she likes to know about, like many people do. But it's also filled with idiots and people who've got 200 or 300 followers and they follow 200 or 300 people, and all they do is go in it all day and just bait and bait and bait. Now, Nigel Williams was one, Nigel Williams 4, I think. 4 seems to be a bit of a theme because the latest one's called Grand Admiral 4. Don't know where they get these kind of monikers from, but anyway, Nigel came on to have a go about Harry Secoulis. The Anne Secoulis killing of the young boy Kane down south, and just nonsense he was spouting. Eventually he blocked me. But this one is quite a different prospect entirely. Tommy has some really interesting points, and he does have a degree of intelligence insofar as he's done a bit of his own research and he knows a little bit about what he's talking about. I say a little, because one of the problems that happens with people like this is that once you challenge them, you say whatever you say, then it suddenly becomes not a discussion about what they're talking about, but an attack, you know. And what it ended up with being was he has described to me as a victim, typical nationalist who is Celtic supporting and on benefits. That level of political analysis aside, the major issue that we got involved in was whether or not child benefit is a universal benefit. His argument being that once you get to 50,000, you either get taxed on it or you have the choice of giving it back. Ergo, it's a universal benefit because it's on offer to everybody irrespective of their income. What happens once you get to that level of income is a political choice made by whichever political party at the time is likely to suggest that they would look at it in a particular way. That does not stop it being a universal benefit. But, as I said, old Tommy here decided to go down the road of being abusive and, you know, saying this and that, and put me into a group he's got, like, totally thick gnats or whatever. Well, Tommy, son. The abuse that you like to... I didn't correct your spelling, I didn't correct your grammar, I didn't suggest that you were in your mother's basement, kicking off, trying your best to deal with whatever incapacity you have, particularly one of which is simply being able to debate and simply being able to discuss. I've had quite a few conversations with people who don't agree with me, which have always ended up to an extent being quite respectful, because that's what debate's supposed to be in a democracy. But where people start to just go, you're just this and you're just that, when they don't even know who you are, was then compounded by one of his pals. Right now, this is a string on Twitter which includes George Galloway, the SNP, Lorna, me, and one of his wee pals. So his wee pal puts in his final tweet just to make it for anybody who's partial to this email string. I presume he meant part of, but anyway. And he went on to say just exactly that the SNP were a divisive force, they were terrible and all the rest of it, which is fine, it's his point of view. But he sent it round to George Galloway, the SNP, Lorna, me and his wee pal. And I put on SMH, shaking my head, because I don't have anything. You can't, as I said when I was discussing about Trump supporters a few months ago, you can't argue with stupid. So he has sent round his final, absolutely razor sharp, poignant message to two people who disagree with him, and he knows. The SNP itself, who are never going to agree with him. George Galloway, who liked it, and his wee pal, who he knows agrees with. Till next week, bye for now.